How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and today we're going to be talking about Spencer Cornelia's most recent YouTube video about his real estate journey and how he just admitted that he lost $120,000 in 2020. Spencer, what the flip were you thinking? Okay, before everybody thinks that I'm just going to dog on Spencer, I'm not. I'm actually a big fan of his channel. He does a lot of exposing of fake gurus. He also talks about why professional athletes lose their money, and he talks about his real estate journey. In fact, there's actually some similar parallels between his channel and mine. We're both the exact same age. We're 30, only a few months apart. We both started YouTube around the exact same time. Both of our channels, we started with the idea of documenting what it takes to go from having nothing in real estate to being a successful investor. He owned a condo, but very shortly thereafter sold it for a fourplex that he could house hack. I bought a duplex that I could house hack. He's in the Las Vegas market, which was the market that overturned Seattle as the #1 increasing, appreciating market. Seattle, where I'm from, it was the #1 appreciating market in the country. We both decided that it wasn't advantageous for us to invest in our home markets of Las Vegas or Seattle and decided to go to the Midwest to do investments. He went to Ohio and I went to Indiana. So there's actually a bunch of similarities between kind of our journey. I'm a big fan of Spencer, so Spencer, if you watch this, don't think I'm dogging on you. I just want to talk about why you struggled and ultimately, in my opinion, failed big time with the real estate that you were buying in Ohio, and why I have not seen those same results. In fact, I've had nothing but success. I've made a ton of money, and I have a bunch of great rentals to show for it. Now, I don't want you to just think that I'm bragging and patting myself on the back here. That's not the point of it. The point is you employed a very different tactic to invest out of state than I did. I thought I did a great job, and you admittedly, and I agree with you, did not do a great job. So let's talk about it. Now, again, hey, if you haven't seen his channel, go check it out. It's a great channel to subscribe to. He's a good dude. He's a nice dude. Most people would not have the stones to actually make a video exposing themselves and then put it up there for everybody to critique. So hats off to Spencer. Give him a round of applause. The guy's a stud. All of that aside, let's jump into the video.
This story begins on July 3rd, 2018. I fly to Cincinnati, Ohio with my buddy Mache to view the 3 major markets in Ohio: Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. I picked Cincinnati.
Okay, real quick, right off the bat. So you've decided to invest out of market, out of town, but you flew to Ohio to view the 3 markets. I mean, over a weekend, how much can you really get to know the different markets that you're looking at over just a weekend? You're looking at 3 major cities. Right away, we both follow Michael Zuber. I know that you do. He would recommend that, you study your market for 6 months to a year in advance before you make any plays in it. So maybe you did. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe you were looking at those 3 markets really heavily before you actually delved into it. But in my personal opinion, a weekend trip to pick your favorite, man, the way that I landed in my market in Indiana was a year of looking at the rentals and a year of talking to people investing in that area and a year of building the connections and listening to my mentor and watching his success. There was a ton of time that I put into the prep work before I ever decided to invest in the market.
After returning to Las Vegas, I searched through Craigslist for a property to purchase. I find a property for sale for $39,000, 1800 Elm Ave, Norwood, Ohio 45212. I call the wholesaler and tell him I'll buy. He connects me with Greenleaf Funding, a local hard money company. I sign the purchase agreement and send it over. The property is going to be mine. I call a contractor investor who I previously connected with on BiggerPockets to let him know the project is his. Let's do this. We closed September 27th, 2018. The $10,000 down payment to Greenleaf Funding is wired over. The property is mine. Let's get to work. I'm excited because the expected rehab is around $64,000 and the appraisal came in at $170,000. This was a monster deal with $60,000 spread. My contractor begins work immediately. Bug bombs in the basement, full house demo, the party is starting. He completes work, I submit a draw request to the lender, I pay $150 for the lender to send their inspector to the property to ensure work is completed. Following the inspection, Greenleaf wires over the money to me for the completed line items. November 2018, my agent calls me and tells me there's a property that's about to be listed down the street in the same neighborhood. The seller wants $64,000. We estimate $100,000 for rehab, and the ARV is around $225,000. Norwood, the neighborhood with these 2 properties, is hot and everything is selling. This is another great deal with around a $30,000 spread. I was tight on funds.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I was already thinking that the $60,000 spread, his anticipated profit was a little bit of a narrow margin. That being said, because the prices are so cheap, $60,000 is an overall percentage of the ultimate sale price of the final product, the ARV, is decent, but I was sitting there thinking $60,000 isn't a lot to play with. If you end up having to run into an unexpected plumbing or an unexpected electrical problem, or you have holding costs because it takes longer to fix things than you thought it would, or your crew steals from you or walks off the job because you don't actually know these people, as you yourself mentioned, Spencer, you just met them in the Bigger Pockets forums. You know, $60,000 can get eaten up really quickly. And then your second property, your spread's only $30,000. Now look, if you were planning on remodeling these and then holding them, putting a tenant in it and holding it long term and possibly refinancing and getting some of your money back with the BRRRR strategy, I wouldn't be as opposed to it, because at least at the end of the day, you can throw a tenant in there and it'll cash flow positively every month. And then when you have the market conditions where you can actually execute a refinance, you do it at that point. Not a bad idea. But you're trying to flip a house here. I don't think you have any experience with flipping houses. I may be wrong about that. Based on all the videos I've watched yours, I don't think you have experience with flipping houses. So you're deciding to learn how to flip a house 2,000 miles away with people that you don't know very well, and your spread, your profit margin, I guess on paper looks good, but in reality, in actuality, it's much lower than I would feel comfortable dealing with.
But I wanted the experience of flipping houses. I decided to list my condo in Las Vegas for sale because I had about $90,000 of equity and could use that money for the flips. We offer $64,000 on the second flip and they accept. I use the same lender, Greenleaf Funding, for the second flip. Same terms, $10,000 down payment, and the house is mine. At this point, my one experience with the contractor is they buy materials, they complete install, and then I order a draw request. My lack of experience had me believe that all contractors operated like this.
Okay, so by your own admission, Spencer, the only time you've ever hired a contractor in your entire life is this one time? My guy, you are an extremely brave individual. Look, man, again, I'm not trying to dog on you. I think you're a great dude. I was in construction for 6 years. I did kitchen remodels and bathroom remodels, granite countertops and cabinetry work for years. And I can tell you right off the bat, I would not feel comfortable remodeling a property even if I myself was doing it in some other state, much less trusting someone else to do the work, unless they're coming highly recommended by people that I know and trust and have a good relationship with. I mean, I would not feel comfortable just, yeah, we met on an online forum. I mean, that's risky right there. Secondly, you've used hard money for 2 loans in a row, and you stretched yourself and spread yourself so thin on the second one that you ended up selling your condo just so you could get at the equity. Look, man, that's like your home base of operations. You know, you got to protect this house. That's like, you don't delve into the equity of the property that you actually live in. I mean, this to me just sounds like high risk gambling. I think that living in Las Vegas went to your head a little bit. Okay, that's a cheap shot. I'm sorry, my guy. I mean, I had to throw it in there eventually. But seriously, I mean, what was wrong with just completing the one before starting the second? Maybe fear of missing out, FOMO kicked in a little bit, and you were like, oh, you know, I could probably juggle 2 at once and I'll make money once they sell. But look, man, this is your first time flipping houses, your first time hiring a contractor, your first time doing anything out of state. Take it one step at a time. Make it stupid proof for people like me or an idiot. And you'll probably be more protected that way.
My agent recommended an awesome contractor for the second property. I call him. He wants 40% of the budget up front, which is $40,000. I have $15,000 in my bank account. He agrees that $15,000 is enough to begin. December 1st, 2018.
Spencer, I have $15,000 in my bank account. He agrees that every single penny that I have given to him so that I'm zeroed out in my bank account is enough to begin. What? Where are your reserves? Like, I mean, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the $15,000 was just what you had allotted for this project, and you actually had other reserves set aside for an emergency. I mean, where's your emergency fund? You know, if you lose your job, or if you, unfortunately, like me, I just busted my shoulder and I'm on sick leave this week. So it's not broken, but it's like my mobility is limited. I can't work this whole week. Now I get sick pay, luckily for me, but I mean, where are your reserves? Was the $15,000 all you had? Or did you at least have some more to cover, 6 months worth of expenses? Because you were spreading yourself so thin. I am legitimately concerned for your well-being.
I list my condo for sale. I agree to a lease purchase agreement with my friend to take over his house hack beginning after my condo closes. We agree to a $300,000 purchase price with a $60,000 down payment on the house hack. The down payment will be paid in 3 installment payments to coincide with my property's closing. December 4th, 2018. Just a couple days later, I purchased a fourplex investment property in Las Vegas using owner carry financing with a $20,000 down payment. This deal took 1 year to close. Persistence. February 28th.
Okay, so it sounds like he sold the condo, purchased the house hack, and then separately purchased the fourplex. So maybe he didn't house hack the fourplex. It's a little hard to tell, or maybe I'm just dumb. That is a very, very real possibility.
2019. After sitting on the market for a month and a half, my condo in Las Vegas Country Club sells for $170,000. I pay my friend $30,000 as the first payment in the down payment installment plan for the house hack. The remaining money is used to fund the renovations for my flips. From September 27, 2018 to March 1st, 2019, I took on $750,000 of debt. Between the 4 properties, I had roughly $250,000 in equity and expected earnings from the flips. I owned $1 million of real estate in the span of 6 months.
Okay, so even though it was reckless, that's still pretty amazing. For people out there watching, I wouldn't recommend to do it that quickly and leverage yourself that much with no reserves. But the fact that Spencer went in 6 months from owning nothing to $1 million in real estate, that's pretty cool. That's pretty crazy. That's impressive. So hats off to you, Spencer. You're a stud. I'll give it to you. Maybe you could have just backed off that and just gone with $750,000 worth of real estate and gone for the big milli, 6 months later. My opinion.
Fast forward to June 17th, 2019, or a day that would change my life forever. 8.5 months after beginning the rehab on 1800 Elm Ave, we're done. I'm excited to take pictures, list the property, and sell the house. Up to that point, every picture I had been sent looked good. I pull into work and my agent calls me. He is at the property with the photographer. It's a phone call I'll never forget. He tells me it's the worst rehab he's ever seen. I'm shocked because all of the pictures I had seen up to that point look good. It passed 8 different inspections, but I take full responsibility.
It passed 8 inspections? Who is inspecting your property? The contractor was inspecting? Who did you pay 8 times to go out and inspect the property? Obviously by these pictures, it looks like hot trash. So I would think that an actual inspector that a lender would require for you to have inspect the property if they were going to finance it would catch this stuff. So my question to you, Spencer, who was inspecting the property on all 8 of these times? Number 2, this is a really great reason for why it's, you need to have your team a rock solid, locked in, ready to go team that you can trust anywhere that you invest, even if it's next door. But especially if it's 2,000 miles away from where you live, because you won't get taken advantage of like this if you have people that you can know and trust who have your best interest at heart.
A beginner mistake of not having people go check on the property. My fault. I was strapped on funds. I had no money. The second rehab was going fine, but we found issues at the start of the project. Both of these houses were 100 years old and unoccupied for a couple years. There were problems behind the walls, with the roof, everywhere. If there was an expense with the project that was not a line item with the lender, then you didn't receive compensation for it. I put a lot of money into the second house that was not on the line item sheet. I got caught in a moment where I had a lot of my cash in these 2 properties, but one was in the middle of the rehab and the other was not even ready to be listed. I was all in at around $110,000 on the first flip and the ARV was $170,000. All I needed was it to sell and I'd have all the cash I needed. I'm in Las Vegas working a desk job, and 2,000 miles away, I have a major problem.
Okay, hold on. I probably should have paused a second earlier. The danger that we saw with the 2006, 2007, 2008 financial recession, right? There was a bank-led recession, but a lot of people lost money in their homes when their houses went upside down. People were buying a second house, a third house with appreciation in mind. If I can just make the payments for 1 year and then sell it a year from now, I'll make another 60 grand. If you're betting on appreciation, even forced appreciation, which is what Spencer's doing here. For those of you who don't know, forced appreciation is essentially just updating the property so it's worth more, or if it's a multi-unit property like an apartment building, if you can raise rents, the more that it rents for, the higher the value of the property. So if you can force the appreciation via a remodel or some other method, it's not as bad as just hoping for traditional appreciation, but still, if your entire strategy is based around appreciation, that is more of a gamble, in my opinion, than the less sexy and more guaranteed cash flow producing, tenant occupied, buy and hold rental strategy that I employ. And that's why I didn't get burned doing anything that I've done. And Spencer, unfortunately, when your properties don't sell for what you want, you're going to lose some money here.
I'm out of cash, I can't trust the contractor to fix all the defects that he created, and I need this first property sold. I'm very privileged and fortunate to have had the ability to call my parents and receive some emergency funding. The first house needed someone to redo a lot of work in order for it to sell. I tell my second contractor to forget about the second flip and do whatever is needed to get the first flip ready to sell.
Dude, okay, so Spencer's in straight up panic mode. Thank goodness he had a great contractor that was sticking with him and dropped the second flip to help him with the first flip so he could get it sold. That's smart, just because not only does it make this contractor a good guy, but also a smart guy, because he's probably sitting there like, I'll get paid if we get one of these sold at least. And luckily Spencer had the option to go to his mom and dad and get some money. A lot of people don't have that option. I haven't really spoken to my parents since being an adult, or I guess my mom or my stepdad. But of the times that they've spoken to me since being an adult, it's been them asking for money from me. So a lot of people don't have mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or the rich uncle to go and say, hey, I screwed up. Will you help me out here? You're going to pay for that by losing everything. And that's a really bad position to be in. So I would recommend that someone else exercise a little more caution. You get somebody to look at it. This is a great reason why you should have a mentor. Because let me tell you what, if I tried to do this, many of the people who watch my channel know my mentor Mark, who just started his own YouTube channel. He would smack me in the head and tell me not to be an idiot. What am I doing?
He pulled his guys off the second flip and immediately went to the first flip to help me out. But unfortunately, this delayed the second flip. I estimated I needed about $20,000 to finish the first flip. That was on top of the $65,000 initial rehab costs. I also list my fourplex for sale because I need the cash. After 7 days, I receive a cash offer.
Dude, oh my gosh, Spencer, I feel so bad for you. Like, you're strapped for cash, and so you have to make bad choices. You're doing the best you can with what you got, but like that fourplex in Las Vegas, you should have held that for 30 years, man. That would be a cash call. 30 years from now, that thing's gonna be worth $1 million, and you're forced to sell it just to scrounge a tiny bit of equity from it to try to keep yourself afloat, bro. Oh man, dude, that sucks. I feel so bad for you. Prayers out to Spencer, my guys. Prayers out. He deserved better circumstances on this one. Jeez.
For $310,000 with $5K cash back to the buyer at close. I used the proceeds to pay my friend $25,000 for the second payment of the house hack down payment.
Okay, real quick, once again, dude, Spencer, you're a good dude, man. Like, you're still making the payments to your friend, meeting your obligations, working hard to try to make it happen. Like, you were getting screwed over in the process. I'm sure you were a combination of depressed, pissed off, and freaking frustrated, but you're like clearly still paying his buddy, still making things work, making his obligations. Like, good for you, man.
And any remaining funds will be put towards the flips. It ended up taking about 3 months to finish the first flip's emergency rehab. The second contractor was a lifesaver and made the house look pretty nice. The address was 1800 Elm Ave, and his crew called it the Nightmare on Elm Street. We list the property for $160,000. We get more showings than an HGTV house, but no offers. A couple days later, I sell my car for $2,500 for cash just to get by. My job was located 2 hours away from my house by bus.
Bro, you even had to sell the car? Spencer, oh my God, dude, this is the worst. I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry, dude. This is, yes, Nightmare on Elm Street, nightmare in, oh man, dude, this sucks.
I rode the bus 4 hours every single day. At night, I would ride the bus to the gym, work out, and walk home. Those were some really long days. Back to the first house. One of the complaints from showings was the next door neighbor had a lot of trash and multiple inoperable cars parked in their yard. After a couple of weeks, I decided to take some action. I look up the tax assessor website and find the name of the neighbor. I find the neighbor on Facebook and message the lady. I ask her to clean up her yard and sell her cars. I semi-assisted her in selling one and cleaning up her yard. To make a long story short, the house eventually receives an offer for $130,000 after we drop the price multiple times over 4 months. The buyer wants $5,000 at closing. We accept.
Okay, hold on. Now remember, unless I'm remembering this wrong, the second flip, which is the one he's talking about right now, he only had $30,000 worth of spread. And instead of selling at 160, it's now selling for 130, and he just said that he's got $5,000 at closing. So he's actually selling this one at a loss, and that may or may not include the real estate commissions as well. My guy.
Basically selling it for $125,000, much less than the $160,000 we thought it would sell for. It sold for less for various reasons, one of which is the house was still not in great shape. To complicate closing, the appraiser seems to think that there's termite damage in the basement and it could be a structural problem. I have to order a structural engineer to inspect the property for potential structural problems. Wonderful. Let's delay closing another 2 weeks and another $1,500 out of my pocket. Just as we're about to close, a little virus from China starts to enter this country. Nothing like adding a little more stress for this property. There was real concern that this would hold up closing. Thankfully, we were able to close and I was able to walk away from the nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, so once again, his entire strategy is based on the sale of the property at the end, hopefully being what he wants it to sell for. And when it doesn't sell for that, he loses a ton of money. Now, if he had been able to throw a tenant in there and have it cash flow, he wouldn't have any of these problems. He could hold it indefinitely. Now, if you're going to put a tenant in there and have it cash flow, you probably shouldn't sink 60, 70, 80 grand in repair costs immediately, unless your goal is to refinance after the repairs, pull some of your additional money out, and make sure that your after repair value, the loan that you have on it at that point, is still less than the mortgage, so you're positively cash flowing that property. And then he can hold it until it goes through the roof at some point, which again, this is 2020. If he still had these properties today, I guarantee if we Google these properties right here that he listed, the Elm Street one and the Norwood one, I bet you that they're $60,000, $70,000 above what he had hoped they'd sold for. But because he couldn't continue to hold them, he got hosed and sold at a loss, and somebody else picked up a ton of equity. This is a great reason why it's not a good idea to flip if you're inexperienced, especially if it's out of state. And in my opinion, the buy and hold strategy, you throw a tenant in there, and yeah, you might get somebody who sucks, and you end up having to do an eviction. But that's pretty rare if you have a good property manager. I've never even had an eviction yet. My mentor has 25 houses, has had, I think, 1 eviction. If you get that good tenant and that good property manager, it cash flows every single month. You bring money in, and you can wait as long as you need to until the market conditions are proper to either refinance or sell at that point and rake in that sweet, sweet cashish.
Fast forward a couple of months and I was finally able to complete the rehab on the second flip. I'm condensing the story for time, but I faced a scheduling nightmare. Because the good contractor took his crew off the second flip back to the first flip, it threw off his schedule and previous contractual agreements. In order to finish the second flip, I basically had to wait until he had a couple of days to go knock out other items at the house. I also had no money, so I relied on him completing work before I could receive the draw request money from the lender. I can't explain to you how much magic and personal finance wizardry I had to use to complete a house flip 2,000 miles away with no money and enough debt service to wipe out my net income. At this point, the virus is shutting down the NBA, people are starting to work from home, sounds like lending is starting to constrict. There's worry that lenders won't even lend to new home buyers. I am stressed to the max. And to make this story even more interesting, I got furloughed from my job, which eventually never returned. I do catch a huge break. A lady with my hard money lender is also an agent and happens to have a buyer wanting a new home in Norwood. Before I list the property, her clients view the house and make a full price offer of $253,900 with some money going towards closing costs.
Okay, that's awesome. So I was mistaken. I had confused the first and second rental. Sounds like the one we were talking about earlier was the first rental. So the second one looks like he is actually going to sell that one for what he thought he could sell it for, which is great. As he said, he's catching a break. So I'm glad that you got one little win in here, my guy.
Selling the second house was one of the biggest reliefs I'll ever experience. Before the house sold, I had to knock off a few remaining items that cost about $5,000. When the house sold, I was able to pay off my 4 credit cards that had been maxed for a full year.
Okay, right. So when he earlier said, I can't even begin to explain to you the amount of personal finance wizardry, what literally was going through my head was, you put an F ton of money on credit cards and paid a crappy interest rate on them. And here we go right here. When the second house finally sold, I was able to pay off all 4 credit cards, which had been maxed for a year.
It took me another month to pay my contractor in full. Huge relief, but the story doesn't end there. With the flips closed, I decide to renovate my house hack. I'll leave that for another video. In the middle of renovations, we find an unexpected sewage problem. I have the plumbing company inspect the plumbing and sewage, and I have a $31,000 sewage problem underneath my house.
Bro, when it rains, it pours, my guy. The bad things happen in threes. Property 1, property 2, and now your house hack. Dude, oh my God. Oh my God, your kitchen looks horrible right there.
I had a jackhammer in my house for 3 weeks tearing up my kitchen and 2 downstairs bathrooms. They also had to go 6 feet deep in my front yard underneath concrete that I had just poured 2 weeks earlier. I replaced the entire sewage system from my kitchen sink to the main street. I upgraded my water line into the house from the main street, and I had an opportunity to fully renovate multiple bathrooms after they were destroyed. With the 2 flips selling in 2020 and the sewage renovations that are a loss on the balance sheet because they don't add value to the appraisal, I lost somewhere around $120,000 in real estate in 2020. I don't know what else to do besides laugh and hope that this learning experience will make me a lot of money moving forward. Sometimes things just don't go your way in life. I basically made one wrong decision and hired the wrong guy, and it cost me multiple properties and $120,000.
So first of all, he's got a great attitude. He took a punch straight on the chin, what could have been a knockout punch for your average person, and that thing bounced off of him like Rocky frickin' Balboa. I mean, he's a stud, good attitude, happy. He says he made one wrong choice. I would say he made a few wrong choices, or he made a few poorly calculated risks that he thought would be a higher probability of succeeding than I think they would be. But I mean, honestly, I don't think he actually did anything that was straight up stupid like some people do, but I definitely think ill-advised, and he maybe should have spent a little more time researching. Definitely should have only done one project at a time. And looked for a larger profit margin. You know, if you have a profit margin of 90 grand or 100 grand, then that would have solved a lot of his problems here. And if he'd only done one property at a time, that wouldn't have forced him to sell other things at a loss or at a non-opportune time. So, yeah, Spencer, I mean, dude, I'm glad things are working out for you, but you got through that by the skin of your teeth, dog.
If this hadn't have happened, I'd be doing really well financially right now. Anytime you start something new, you don't know what you're doing and you'll make mistakes. People starting in real estate make mistakes. Unfortunately for me, my mistakes started a domino effect that cost me a lot of money. I'm the type of guy who is willing to take massive risks. I take action. Sometimes that's to my detriment. I'm not afraid of losing money. All I care about is learning through experience. I'm going to be in real estate for the rest of my life. This was just a temporary setback. I'm bummed that this happened, of course. This has been a crazy bull market and a lot of people have made exorbitant amounts of money. I didn't. That's tough to stomach. There's a lot of people on social media who don't know what they're doing, investing in real estate, stock market, and crypto, and are making a lot of money. Serious FOMO has definitely kicked in at times. But I'm really proud of myself. I did not miss a single payment on any of my debt.
Okay, hold on. So he said serious FOMO is kicked in at different times, and he's referring to stocks and crypto and everything like that. So I think this is one key difference between he and I don't want to assume that he was saying something he wasn't, but I will for the sake of the video. So, I mean, it sounds like he has a lot more of the mindset of he's chasing that big dollar payout. You know, oh, maybe I can make a whole bunch of money investing in Dogecoin or investing in Bitcoin or stocks or fix and flips. I could walk away with 100 grand or 60 grand or 70 grand. I think that's the wrong attitude to have when you're looking at investing in real estate. That's how a lot of the fake guru guys will sell you. Oh, you can become super rich. You know, you could just do 1 or 2 deals a year and make 100 grand a year. That's a bad strategy, because if you're wrong, you were wrong big time, and you pay for it big time, and you can lose everything. The strategy that I employ with buy and hold rentals, I am not making a lot of money, right? After everything is done, I might be making $250 to $300 a month per property. And with 1 property, that's not very much. With 2, that's not much. With 5 or 10, with 10 properties making $250 a month, that's only $2,500 a month. That is nothing really to brag about. That's not even an additional paycheck for me for my normal 9-to-5 job. It's not really until I hit the point of about 15 to 20 properties that you actually start to see that passive income start to accrue faster and benefit you overall. So it's a slower game. Now, I managed to buy 3 properties last year. I'm hoping to buy 3 to 5 this year. And within 5 years, I may hit that mark where it really starts to hit that exponential growth pattern, right? Not a linear growth pattern, exponential. It'll start to snowball into a more beneficial financial situation for me to be in. But you have to be patient. So I don't have FOMO. When my brother messages me and goes, hey man, you need to look up SafeMoon. It's a new cryptocurrency. And like, dude, I mean, I'm good with Bitcoin. I understand it. All these other things are people trying to find the next penny stock that's going to go to the moon and try to get in on it early. I'm not about that. I think it's a bad idea. I think you're going to get burned playing with that type of fire. Do something that's a little more guaranteed and safe, and you might not get rich as quick. But most people don't get rich quick. I would rather get rich for certain or get rich for sure.
I did not have a single late payment on any of my credit cards. I can honestly say that my stress levels were 10 out of 10 for probably 11 straight months while I tried to exit the flips. There were days where all I ate was rice for lunch. It's all I could afford. I had to walk home from the gym in shoes with holes in them because I couldn't afford new shoes.
But my boy Swole Daddy Spencer over here never once thought to get rid of his gym membership. Heck no, he might have to downgrade from Golds to a Planet Fitness, so he's only paying $10 a month. But you can bet that Swole Daddy Spencer is out there flexing on these honeys. Spencer, you freaking savage, dude. I'm proud of you.
It was a lot of fun when it was cold and wet. Every night I struggled to fall asleep because my mind was racing trying to solve the financial problems I faced. I rode the bus 4 hours every day to my job and had to pretend like nothing was going wrong in my personal life while working. I showed up to work every day and was able to mask the troubles that I was facing in my personal life. I solved all of these problems while working a 9-to-5 and no one knew. This will be an easy video for people to criticize. I'm sure a lot of people will tell me how dumb I am for flipping houses 2,000 miles away without knowing what I'm doing. It's cool, I can take it. This story may look like failure, but it's actually the exact opposite. Through these tough times, I grew a YouTube channel from 300 subscribers to 100,000 in a single year. I have a house hack that will generate around $40,000 of income for me every single year. I'm networking with some of the most successful and awesome people on social media. I'm now making around $8,000 per month net. I'm a success story, not a failure. I can't be anything other than grateful. I'm making $100,000 per year. I have no debt, no health issues, an amazing group of friends, a large social media following, and a pretty bright future ahead. I'm very thankful for the support, as it was a major factor for me climbing my way out of the most difficult 18 months of my life. This experience was like a Mike Tyson punch to the gut. It didn't knock me out though. It just made me tougher and more resilient.
Okay, so I use the analogy of Rocky Balboa punching him on the chin. That was just a pure coincidence. But Mike Tyson to the gut, whatever. Either way, you're still standing. For those watching, yes, he's a success story. I'm curious to know how much of the YouTube ad revenue bailed him out as his YouTube channel was growing, because he's making some pretty decent money with the numbers that he's pumping out. And again, good for you, Spencer. I'm thrilled for you. I think you do a fantastic job exposing fake gurus. You are a million times better at YouTube than I could probably ever hope to be. I still can't figure out how to even like make it so my camera doesn't unfocus and focus like 50 times while it's filming me. So hats off to you there. When it comes to real estate, I think my strategy is probably a little bit better. I guess we'll see, you know, moving forward, who is more successful in real estate. Unfortunately, you're going to have me beat with the ability to earn income and invest it because YouTube's going to kick my butt. But, you know, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. Congratulations on being a stud on YouTube. I'm glad that you're still sticking with the real estate. I'm glad that you have such a great attitude. For anybody who watched this, go check his channel out, like and subscribe to it, and we'll catch you next time.